Listeners be advised. The Soliloquy podcast discuss matters related to the human experience and many that are sexual in nature. Due to this, some conversations may surround triggering topics such as sexual violence, self-harm, abuse, and much more. Please be advised, a list of crisis and psychological resources will be available in the show notes of this episode. With that said, let's get started with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please as we go through the following safety instructions.
In the event that there is a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop from the overhead. Place the mask over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally as oxygen is flowing even if the mask is not inflated. Be sure to adjust your own mask before helping others.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soliloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. This is your favorite host, Vernon T. Scott, also known as Slaytor Jackson, and for your freaking motherfuckers out there, Sebastian Adams. On today's episode, we are joined by Fortis as we talk about Black fetishization, and we will definitely get into that conversation very shortly. Before then, Fortis, how are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, Well, by this point, I don't know if I've been advertising about it or what have you. At least if this is your first episode, you know it's coming. November is happening. November is November. Catch up, stay up. You're good. Stay woke. So November is right around the corner. Y'all come on, join the party. It's a festival. It's a festivity. It's just nothing but fun and sex positivity. If you're not here for it, I'm sorry. You're listening to the wrong podcast. Oh, and before we really get deep into this conversation, I'm going to provide you all with a gift at the end of this episode. A friend of mine who's going to be on the podcast in season 3 sometime by the name of Sin wants me to read this poem that I wrote and kind of did at this recent like poetry event. And he said that the audience needs to hear it. So because he asked, I'm going to do it for you all so you can hear that. Again, it's going to be at the end of the episode, so stay for that. So that's my announcements. Church is now in session. So, Fortis, Black fetishization, what are your thoughts about it?
I think it's all too common and it's not in a positive way.
Ooh, and I agree. What you mean?
Uh,
What you mean? Let's go into it.
I mean, from making like I have myself when I was on dating apps,
Mhm.
I have met people outside of the Black community that would reach out to me and ask about. They wouldn't even say, "Hey." There would be comments like, "How big is your dick?" They would ask stuff like that, crazy things like that. And
Mhm.
then there was one comment I remember I seen where they would actually be like, I haven't been with they haven't been with someone Black before, basically. And
Mm,
that's also common, unfortunately. That was on Grinder, actually, believe it or not. It was
of
on
course.
Grinder. Adam for Adam, I did not well, no, actually on Adam for Adam there was. I actually met a married couple,
Mhm.
but around that time I did not know they were actually married. So there was someone that hit me up and they were actually requesting to, I guess, meet up. Now, mind you, they were not my type, respectfully. They
Mhm.
gave off a bad vibe, and I don't know what it was. But I did engage with them in a conversation because I wanted to get to know more like what's going on. Why am I not feeling this person like that?
Mhm.
So this person, they revealed that they have never been with a Black person until maybe about 3 years ago. The only reason why they had interest in Black people was because they went to Atlanta Pride.
Mhm.
And so I think based on that, what I had got from that situation, they have disclosed that they were into different things. They were into like physical abuse. They like to dehumanize people and everything to that nature.
Mhm.
Mind you, they're married and I think they're in an open relationship with another person. But what makes it very toxic is I think because of them, they're so quick to go into like having these sexual fantasy with these other men, especially Black men. It made it hard for the other person to actually hook up with other people. What
Mhm.
I mean by that is because I do recall I was talking to the other person at one point, and they mentioned how much their husband was very, very much of a jealous hearted person. Which I had told them, like, they're cock blocking you, respect, like, just being real with you. So
Yeah.
it was things like that. And this other guy, his spouse, he said some very out of pocket stuff that I just felt like that was just so unnecessary. Because he said like I had times where he wanted to beat people up, like he wanted to punch, like he wanted to do things like that.
Hmm.
Which at this point I was like, well, I'm not that type of person. I'm not into that. He even said something about the nature of if he would have more money, he would actually have me in his house as a houseboy, just wearing like underwear or something like that. Now
Mm,
my thing was, I was like, I'm all for role play, but not that kind of play. Especially when you were putting yourself you're exposing yourself as this person who likes to dehumanize black men.
mm,
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he had to have some type of experience with that himself. I think whoever he met up in Atlanta, I think they must have boosted his head, and I think he just felt like he can do whatever he wants because he implied that he had done this before.
hmm.
So ever since then, I have not really been one to be bothered. Now, what's funny is I actually seen them twice in public.
Really?
Oh
How
well,
did that
no.
go?
I think they don't recognize me because most times what happens is because I still wear my mask and I wear my hat.
Hmm.
Now, on this particular occasion, now I think recently I wasn't wearing anything other than my mask. Now they haven't said anything out of the way other than they complimented on a shirt that I had purchased. So I'm not sure if they really recognize me really, but I
Hmm.
recognize them.
Wow.
Hmm.
Like it, it's hard. Like, there's a lot of thoughts. So, like, for those who enjoy like the physical play that causes pain and stuff like that, love that for you all. And also for those who enjoy being dehumanized, great. Even those who like to be objectified, those are wonderful, kinks and fetishes and all those things for you to enjoy and like dive deep into. But sometimes I feel as though people utilize sexuality to express certain things that they're not comfortable with admitting to themselves. Like, race play is a thing. Race play is not innately racist. And I'm saying that because of what I'm about to say next. So I don't want anybody to think that just because people engage in like slave master kind of play where there's a white man who's the master of his black slave or things like that, that's more something that people will consensually agree upon and they're comfortable with doing that and the way that they play. But something within me is saying that this certain individual was trying to mask his desires of wanting to implement pain towards black people as well as uh, his internalized prejudices and racism possibly, and in a way to further oppress black people under the guise that they're consenting to it, even though they're not really consenting to the type of play that he think is going on. Like, it's really giving. I want to oppress these people, and I'm using it through sex as best as I can. Now, again, this does not fit all categories, but it's just something within me is saying that is what this person is, and that's who he is, and the type of play that he wanted. He wanted to abuse someone that's black. He wanted to harm. He wanted to uh like hurt this individual in a non-sexual way. Well, hurt you honestly in a non-sexual way under his own gratification of doing so and not to provide the pleasure for you. And that's just the feeling that I'm getting. I could be wrong, but it's just that's something that is really sitting with me in this moment.
Right, because that was an interesting character. That's all I gotta say. He wasn't the only person I have come across that way. Now I have met other people
No, you end up being muted. What is going?
about
Oh, your audio went out. briefly.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Somebody called. I'm so terribly
Oh,
sorry.
you're good. But
My
what
bad.
were you
What
saying?
I would say, unfortunately, I have encountered other people like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's crazy how I had come across these people to this day because I'm like, well, dang, what did I do in order to engage in this conversation? Now, mind you, I was during that time I was actually exploring my sexuality. I was genuinely
Mm-hmm.
trying to learn more about myself and what my interests were.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, the problem was, unfortunately, most of the people that I was trying to link up with, they were not interested.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening was like people like them would just hit me up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that did make me feel uncomfortable because I'm like, well, damn. And this is where I feel like the black fetishization things come in because you get hit on by these people who have this interest of trying to see what they can get out of the situation, what kind of sexual gratification they can get out of it. And they have unrealistic expectations. That's what I also want to say too. When it comes to black fetishization, you have to realize porn creates unrealistic expectations to where oftentimes they would actually have some type of huge, I just don't know how to describe it, but they just have this strange appetite to where they're just not satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's one of the things that just rubbed me the wrong way because besides him, there was another person that I talked with briefly. Now, at this point, I did block them,
Mm-hmm.
but basically, it was just not right because actually they were biracial. I'm gonna just say that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may be getting some backlash behind this, but to me, and I tell if say if I'm wrong, sometimes us as black people we can fetishize ourselves, really and truly
Mm-hmm.
speaking, and that
Mm-hmm.
was the case. The guy, he was from Atlanta. He was biracial. I think he was mixed with Cherokee, German. What else? He was mixed with a lot of things. But the
Mm-hmm.
guy, he was very off-putting. He
Like,
always said he wanted a big booty black boyfriend or something like that. That's what he said.
you're right. It does happen. It happens a lot more than people are, to my knowledge, are willing to admit because we become accustomed to certain things because of what we hear. We hear, "Oh, I love me a big booty woman. I love me a big dick man. Big dick black man." To be specific, I love these certain facets of the black identity that, whenever I approach you with it, that it should be normal for you to hear that. And because that is the normal expectation that you should be comfortable with that, people say it um, and
Right.
don't realize that it can cause some type of discomfort for another person. And that includes those people who are within the Black community as well, because it's the norm. It is so normalized. Like, you don't hear too many conversations outside probably this podcast and others related to Black sexual experiences where you're having the conversation of what Black fetishization is. This is not one of those topics that is extremely nationalized where we are able to engage in this in nuanced ways that, oh, Black people do get uncomfortable about these conversations, even when it comes to the way that Black bodies are portrayed in media. And yeah, you may hear people talking about, oh, we're always sexualizing Black women. Oh, we're always sexualizing Black men. But we don't go beyond that to talk about the actual issues people are facing. We just make the
Right.
statement and move past it. And we don't dive deeper into it. We don't talk about how even outside of the Black community, many individuals within the Asian community are fetishized or otherized in such a in the way that they express themselves sexually, and how
Mhm.
those sexual stereotypes exist. We may gloss over it, but we don't dive into it. So because we don't address it, and it's the societal norm that these beliefs are forced upon us, we we internalize it in a way. So of course you will find those black people who's advertising that they have a BBD or BBC, whichever one that works for them. And you will have those who expect other black people to have big dicks. You will see those conversations or look at those profiles where it's highlighting that, oh, I only fuck around with big black dick men. Um, and that's it. If you don't have it, you need to go somewhere else because it's only big dick territory over here. You know, those kind of things. And because that is our norm, we're unwilling to accept that there may be a problem with the way that we engage in this, even if it does make the individual themselves feel somewhat uncomfortable. The Holiloquy podcast focuses on the variability of sexual expression. When it comes to sexual expression, we often depend on pornography to illustrate how one must perform sexually. For those who have not learned this by now, the stuff you see in porn is not real. Pornography provides a singular perspective of sexual expression that is not often the reality we see during our own sexual encounters. The Holiloquy podcast is a conversation that takes you outside of the compressed box of what many know about sex. Some of the topics we discuss includes kinks, condom usage, status disclosure, and past sexual experiences. The Holiloquy podcast steps out on sexual norms and recognizes that the norm is not the only normal. Subscribe today and join the conversation. Those kind of things. And because that is our norm, we're unwilling to accept that there may be a problem with the way that we engage in this, even if it does make the individual themselves feel somewhat uncomfortable, if you get what I'm saying.
Right. No, you're right about that.
But I, it's when it comes to like just the BBC in general, I think about the amount of times I've experienced someone who says that's the first thing that they say to me, or someone asks me if I want their BBC and do you like the look of my BBC? And I'm just like, fam, you're more than just your dick. You're more than just your sexuality in a way. You're so much more than this, but we have become accustomed to accept the fact that, and I'm saying this throughout the Black community, we have accepted in terms of what others expect of us. We've accepted that we are to be sexualized in a way, that our existence only goes as far as being the sexual object of another person or being a sexual object for ourselves, and as well as furthering the legacy of the Black community only through childbirth rather than actual development in our, and I don't want to say finances, because that the financial literacy and all those other conversations and Black business things do happen. Those are conversations that happen, but the legacy that many of us are taught that we should be moving forward is always rooted in the facet of spreading the DNA to keep moving forward, rather than our advancements that we can make for ourselves, our society as a whole, be it politically, technology wise, or anything like that. We just don't take a moment to reflect on there's more to us outside of the romance and sex part of Blackness, and also Black music and, you know, rap and R&B, all those other things. But outside of that, we don't we don't we don't take that mantle of truly addressing the fact that, hey, this, I'm not saying this in terms of like Black Lives Matter, not that, but say, hey, we are fully human. We're more than this. And I know there's conversations like that do happen, but this is not the national conversation that we're having. Whew. So, any thoughts before I go on to human trafficking? Because here we are.
I have no thoughts. You have expressed everything that I really have thought myself because that's the only thing I can say. Shoot, you hit the nail on that one.
All righty, here we are. So now we're talking about a little bit of human trafficking. We just talked about race issues and it kind of got a little bit depressing and a little bit too real. And here we are talking about human trafficking and black fetishization, meaning there's a whole bunch of black people who are being trafficked right now as we speak. And here we are having the conversation about it. So, Fortis, thoughts?
It's not very surprising. I'm gonna be honest with you. What's so unfortunate is because as a collective, I think people across the globe have this thing where they perceive black people as being inferior. And I hate to say that because oftentimes, like, think about what goes on in our society in the US and the United States.
Mm,
Oftentimes you have people being gunned down. All the time you also have people being sexually assaulted or being dehumanized to the point where there's no recognition. There's no kind of reprimand, like no type of retribution towards that. There's no kind of
mm,
justice. So whenever I hear someone getting sexually trafficked, so I mean, I'm struggling.
you
Whenever I
good.
hear someone getting trafficked, I'm not too surprised, but I'm also not too thrilled about hearing that either because that does make me feel unsafe.
Mm,
Simply because I have you yourself, you know that we live in this city that that's very popularized, and sometimes I have heard that there's some people that will get trapped in certain areas.
mhm,
People will get kidnapped each and every day, especially kids,
mm,
minors. And I think that's very disturbing to know that because oftentimes when you hear things such as people going missing or you hear something about sex trafficking or even like people being sold for their body parts and stuff like that, that is
mm,
disturbing because you don't know what goes on in our corrupted society. People do some insane things. And I think when the thing of it is it comes from what has been embedded in our system since the 1800s when we were enslaved and everything to that nature. People
mhm,
they have seen us as commodity, unfortunately.
mm.
And I think that's the disturbing fact of the matter is like when people do things like that, it just makes me sick to my stomach.
I'm with you. Same. Like the one of the things that really um goes like it's always playing in my head because one of the things that I research is rape culture, and part of rape culture is understanding not all of, but some of human trafficking, and just knowing the foolishness that does go on and unchecked within our society and understanding how quick we are able to otherize individuals and make them more of an unprotected class. And what that means when you're unprotected, that means you don't have the same rights as other people, which means that you can become exploited, which means that it gives people the right to kidnap, abuse, and rape and traffic and utilize you in ways that is completely inhumane just for the sake of profits, just for the sake of their own desires. They have that privilege to do so because you're so far unprotected. And our society honestly doesn't care to change that. It doesn't care to want to sincerely fix any of those things because at the end of the day, we live in a capitalistic society and it's always profit over people regardless. And that's the
Right.
problem that, hey, we know that there's a huge issue with drug trafficking that's going on. And sometimes drugs are trafficked through bodies. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it means a body that is deceased. Sometimes it means a body that has been had its organs replaced so it can still. I'm sorry, I'm getting too dark, but drugs still make its way into this country and we do absolutely nothing to fix it on the governmental level. We know it's here, we've seen the research, we've seen everything that's going on, yet we take no actions. Going back to the 1800s, you have research upon research talking about the ills and horrors of slavery that is going on in the South, yet hey, we're going to ignore that. And this is going back, throwback to the last episode. We're going to ignore that. We see this data that's saying that we have all this profit coming in. However, the slave owners are saying that they are very insufficient, are very inefficient. However, they're outdoing the mechanical things that could, make a lot of people's lives easier. Yet we're going to accept their belief, their argument into how efficient slavery is because they have the hands-on experience, and fuck the data. Um, and fuck the context, and fuck the people who are saying that is very brutal down there for these people. We don't care about that. We're only going to focus on the profits. And that's been the motive of this country since its inception, that we're going to exploit people as much as we can solely for the sake of profits. That profit can be food, that profit can be water, that profit can be gold, minerals, whatever the case is. If we can have a marginalized class, we can have immigrants who come into this country not knowing what they're getting into. If we can have a full community known as Black people who are forever oppressed, we will have everything that we need to be successful within this exploitation that we need. We'll have the bodies to traffic because who cares about Black women? Who cares about Black men? Who cares about Black trans identifying people? Because we don't, because that's who we are going to be exploiting. Like
Hmm.
it's so much, so much that goes into this society that is just unchecked, and we're just what supposed to be okay with that.
So, and there's another thing. I just found this statistic. It was actually founded by the National Center of Sexual Exploitation.
Hmm.
And so basically, according to them, basically it's disproportionate racial discrimination on sex trafficking. So
Hmm.
according to them, like there's only 13.6% of Black people that's within the US population. However, they have found that 40% of the trafficking victims in the
Hmm.
US are actually Black people. So that's very staggering. That's also very disturbing to learn that.
Hmm. And this all goes back to being unprotected.
Hmm.
It always go back to being unprotected. And let's not even talk about what happens to indigenous people too,
Oh
Native
yes, that's right.
Americans. Like there's a problem there too.
Yeah,
They
because I think they happen in Canada. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think a lot of people don't realize this, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Canada they have a higher crime rate associated with the Native American, not Native American, but indigenous people population as well.
mm, and as I'm quite sure it's because they're not provided the resources that they need, like the Black
Hmm.
community here in the US. Like it's like this is not saying this is an excuse for crime, but crime makes sense when you think about what struggles the people are going through. Like
Hmm.
crime exists whenever you have a lack. Now when it comes to the crimes that we see, like rich people do, which is completely different, where they can easily get away with starving people, forcing them to work grueling hours or in dangerous conditions just for the sake of their profit, and that's fine. You made a success in society because of the money that you brought in, so we're going to excuse that. But as soon as you steal some money from my ass, we need to send you to jail. How dare you?
Exactly.
How dare you embezzle? That's the worst thing that you can do in a capitalist society. However, you can kill as many people you want, and what? Life is good? No, I don't subscribe to that.
I don't either. No.
Like,
Mm-mm.
and there was something that you said earlier that that stood out to me, and I forgot, and I hate it. And while I'm trying to figure that out, is there anything else that you wanted to say related to human trafficking?
So be careful of this, because I'm gonna just say this too with my experience. Be careful of the people that you befriend, because believe it or
Mm,
not, people that you will come across that seems to be cool and okay, like in workplaces or even just friends, just be careful of that, because there are some people that will try to bring you in and probably do things like that. The reason why I say that is because I have met someone of a different race. She was a white woman, and this woman was so obsessed with having me go out with her to different places. Now, at first, I'll just say this. At first, we did click because she's part of the LGBTQA plus community.
hmm.
So, of course, I resonate with her because she made herself seem like she was a lesbian. To me, she did. She looked like a lesbian to me. I really thought she was. but we had conversations, and there were some things that we talked about that were interesting, but also in retrospect, when I reflect on it, also disturbing. Reason why was because in the beginning, she was interested in having me basically help her with her mom. Her mom had was diagnosed with a degenerative disease, and basically she
Mhm.
needed someone to assist her. So I told her like I don't have no problem with helping her because I used to work in a nursing home. And I was like, also I was trying to I'm in the process of trying to go to school for something related to rehabilitation. So with that being said, I had some type of experience with that. And I said, I don't mind helping. Because she also said she was gonna pay me too.
Mhm.
So that's why I agreed. That was the initial agreement. Now, I never got to do that because we didn't have that much contact. But the thing about it was disturbing because there was time when we did talk on the phone. She did mention about hanging out.
Mhm.
Now she wanted to hang out somewhere like I think at some type of gay bar or something like that, and I wasn't against it because I was like looking for somebody to hang out with. But it was the area that they were talking about that was kind of sketchy. And me myself, I have never been to a bar before at all because I don't drink like that. And if I do engage in drinking, I'd rather do it in the place of my own house simply because I just don't feel comfortable. You know, alcohol can cause you to become disoriented and everything to that
Mhm.
nature and you have poor judgment. So I was like, no. And then on top of that, she often invited me to other places. Like I think there was some like game or something. I declined that as well. Now it wasn't to be rude or anything like that, but there have been times I had other things going on. Now, whenever she had ghosted me, because I mean, I'm telling you, like she used to ask all about me, but
Mhm.
when I have not been able to go based on her request, she'll basically just ghosted me and everything to that nation. So this has been like 6 months ago. And I think about a month ago, I had talked with a coworker, my supervisor, and they had informed me like they've been asking about me and everything.
Mhm.
That's the worst part about it. And then another thing is she has a gay friend, a white man that actually likes younger black men.
Mhm.
And so with this whole situation, which rubbed me the wrong way, she would also then bring up political issues such as human trafficking. She will bring up gun violence, and also she will bring up the fact that how often she will be discriminated against about with black people because she had mentioned like black kids were being rude to her. Now I understand like sometimes these kids can be out of pocket, but I'm like, damn. I was like, what the hell are you doing wrong? Because she has said some rude things, out of pocket things, because she did tell me that her friend that actually was interested in younger black men, what he would do is basically he would go out with them and basically buy them anything they want. But
Mhm.
he ended up having been bankrupt. I think he had to file for bankruptcy because I guess the black people were using him as she said. But she didn't say it in that way. She said, well, those niggas are gonna do what they want. That's what
Mhm.
she told me.
And you said this was a
Now I'm
white
saying
woman?
this was a white woman with short
Mm.
damn hair like a damn. I'm looking
Mm.
at this her for like, girl, did you just forget who the hell you talking to?
Mm.
So
Mm.
ever since then, I was already looking at her sideways from that moment on. And it was a simple fact, I guess, because of the fact that she knew that I was gay. I liked the men. And I guess she must have thought by recruiting, I guess by me talking with them, she would think that would be a best way. And I
Mm.
never thought of it like that. But the thing about it is just be careful with people because some people can really mislead you in a way to where you put yourself in a very situation that you'll regret. So I just want to put that out there. Just be careful with people.
Now, I appreciate you for sharing that because that's a conversation that's information that people really do need to know. That yeah, it's cool to like get to know people, but there you have to also understand the motives behind getting to know them as well. Like there's a large number of people who are recruited into sex trafficking uh, by way of grooming that, oh, I meet this person, they are sweet, I enjoy them, I enjoy our conversations, they make me feel great, they make me feel special, they make me feel needed and wanted and all these other things. And then somehow within that process you learn that you are now being asked to work for this one person, and this person just going to make sure you're paid, they're going to make sure you're doing well. And when I this work does not always have to be sexual at first. It happens in time, and it's also not guaranteed that you'll be working and stuff like that. Because look, when it comes to human trafficking, it varies. You have labor trafficking, you have sex trafficking, you have a lot of it. But essentially, what I'm saying is, after a while, you become entangled within all the mess that's going on within um, that I don't want to say relationship, but that situation that developed, unbeknownst to you, that now you cannot escape, or it's going to be hard for you to escape. They know who you are. They've isolated you. They have ownership of everything that you have, meaning your house, your access to funds, money, survive here in the country or wherever you're located. It's so fucking complex. The one thing that really stood out to me when I was this was before I got my doctorate. I was at a conference that did I present at this conference? I think this was the one I presented at. But at this, it was a research conference for Mercer, and one of the individuals there, she works at uh, a human trafficking organization in the Atlanta area, and she was presenting on some of her research. And she mentioned that she asked the question, very broad: what qualities, or who is a human trafficker, or something like that. And everybody, was like giving their definitions or what a human trafficker looks like. And she just blatantly stated that everybody in this room qualifies to be a human trafficker, because most people think it's somebody who's uneducated. They think it's somebody who doesn't know the ropes or anything like that. But she was like, most people are found guilty of human trafficking has at least one college degree.
Mm,
And I was like, oh. And ever since then, I was like, you need to pay attention to these people, because yeah, is that serious? Like, they can have a master's degree, they can have a doctorate, they can have any of those things, and they recruit you. So this is not me trying to fear monger or anything like that. This is just
mhm,
me not like, for the listeners out there. This is just relaying some of the truth. Well, just blatant. This is the truth. This is the reality that we live in. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it is what it is. And we do honestly have to figure out what we can do in order to mitigate this within our society, because so long as there's a possibility for somebody to become a victim of human trafficking, or let's put it this way, um, just so long as there's an opportunity for somebody to become a survivor of human trafficking, which is a great thing to survive that, but they should not have been in that to begin with. So,
mhm,
um, so long as there's space for that, there's space that you or someone that you love may fall within that realm of being trafficked.
mm, mm.
Whew. And like I said, this is a this is a tough ass episode. And this is why, because conversations like this that happens throughout the podcast, I have Hovember. And Hovember is a space where we don't have these tough conversations, or these um very, very, very emotionally draining conversations, because it's all about the good things. It's all about the fun things related to sexuality. But just because there's a fun side doesn't mean that there's not hurt or trauma. And that's a thing that people always need to remember. There's traumas everywhere. Hurt is everywhere. But at least within the podcast, we have a month of nothing but enjoyment. So, are you ready for some Never Have I Ever to
Yes,
lighten
I
up the,
am.
the mood
Yes, please. Yes.
before we start crying? Here we go. Never have I ever made a purchase at an adult store.
Oh, I made purchase at adult store. Oh, yes.
I have to. I enjoy visiting, and well, as of my last visit, I enjoyed it even more. It gave me inspiration to do something new. What was your experience like? I'll get into that new experience in a second, but what was your experience like when you first went to an adult toy and made your first purchase?
I felt good. I felt like an actual adult. I
Mm,
actually felt like a adult because of the simple fact that for one,
mhm,
I had the opportunity to actually go to a sex store. I was very excited for one because I always want to know what it was like. And I
mm,
had went to one back in when I was living in Macon. So basically it was nice. For me
mm,
it was. And plus what was so amazing about the experience was because of course I went midnight because the freaks come out at night. But
facts.
the overall thing was the person that was there, like they had the best customer service. They made me feel comfortable in everything. And they also expressed like their sexual experience. The funny thing was like they were heterosexual, but they
Mm,
were so open and so they had such an open mind and open heart because of the simple fact that they were very accepting. And they also provided good advice too. So
mm,
it was nice. It was a great overall positive experience. And I think I went there about two more times, but I didn't go back simply because I just, around that period of time, I was transitioning back to move over here.
mm.
So unfortunately, I couldn't do that. Now, there was another sex store I went to, but I didn't enjoy their customer service, by the way.
I feel you.
Mhm.
My first time going to a sex store, adult store, I think I was an undergrad, and it really did feel liberating just to be in there because me already wanting to learn more about sexuality and wanting to just experience how variety it can be, it was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much shit in here. Like this is where I need to be. This is amazing. And my first time purchasing a like toy from the store, like I purchased some online, but the first time I ever purchased in this at the store was like I think a couple years ago when I moved to Augusta,
Oh.
and which is hilarious. Well, moved back to Augusta. Like I just never wanted to like really pay those big boy prices for toys. But since I had purchased one that was like 129 and it was expensive and didn't do what needed to be done. I talk about it on the vibrator, my pod, for anybody who wants to hear that tell. Just go to that. Look in the show notes. But it I was like, let's see what else I can get. Oh, actually, no, that's a lie. The first time I actually purchased some toys at a adult toy store was at when I lived in Nashville. I purchased some toys for myself and my boyfriend at the time for us to enjoy together, and that was the first time. But my experience when I came to the one here in Augusta, it wasn't a positive one the first time. Because I don't know if he was the manager or what have you. It was him and some other chick. They were kind of joking about, you know, there being customers in there, and I'm like, this is a sex store. Like, why are you these people? You're giving negative
Mhm.
vibes. Calm down. Like, be accepting of the people that come in. Like, sex is something that can be enjoyed and should be enjoyed. So don't provide that energy at the door. So and they even questioned the stuff that I got, and they was like, "Oh, this is interesting." I'm like, "It's a fucking feather, like it's a it's a riding prop. It's okay." So yeah, but the second time I visited this location, which was recent, I ran into an old classmate, and it was beautiful. It was a great experience, but that actually made me want to like it motivated me to do a little bit more work on the coaching side and consulting side for like people whose first time is going into like that space. Those people who don't know what pleasure looks like for themselves and don't know what toys that they should try out first. They don't know exactly what a certain thing does because my friend, this was her first time actually being in that kind of environment and trying to learn these toys. So a part of my homework assignment was to go to an adult store and have a tour. And after the tour, she told me what was the most popular things. We went back around the store so I can tell her exactly what people use certain toys for, how they can be innovative with it, and like if you have somebody who's new, what kind of questions to ask. It was just, it provided a new sense of self that made me want to be like, I'm here. Like this
Right.
is what I can do for a lot of people. And it made me feel secure in the things that I currently do and what I'm working towards. So that was just amazing for me.
I'm glad to hear that because that same store that you spoke of, that's the one I was throwing shade at, by the
Ooh,
way.
ooh, and I understand. And I understand. Like I actually wanted to work with them to like help them increase their business and figure out how they can like start up this consulting thing to make it a little bit easier. But I just decided I might as well not do that with that store. I can do it with someone else. Not
Right.
like the money is money for me in terms of that. I'm cool with helping them out. It's just I'm not going to be here in like a few months. So I'll look at it whenever I come back. Or if I just
Right.
have my own coaching business, I just tell them, hey, this is what I'm doing. How can I partner with you all to get discounted toys whenever I have someone who needs to experience and want to like patronize your shop? Like, what can we do? How can we work together? So that. Would you like or would you rather?
Would I rather?
Hmm. So, let's see. Would you rather have a sexual fling with someone 10 years older than you or have one with someone 10 years younger than you?
Eh, mm, I'll go for older. I'm so used to that.
Same, same. Like, yeah, I'm used to just engaging with people that's older than me, and sometimes probably 20 years older than me. Don't judge me, audience. I'm an adult. But like, yeah, someone younger, like, yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be like, an experience. And I'm 30 for people who don't know that. But I also don't like to engage with someone that's less than like who cannot purchase alcohol. Like,
Mm-mm.
like, why are we here? Like, yeah, sex can be fun or whatever, but I'm not searching for it from the youngins. Would you like a sex question before I close this out with this poem?
Oh yes, that's fine.
All right. So, if you had to choose between being a dominant or submissive, which role would you pick and why?
Mm. Now, there was a time that I have expressed about being submissive.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, on the submissive side, I would say that it gives me the ability to be more receptive, be more open, be more vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
just so it can just help me, I guess, release all apprehension in
Mm,
that context. But I would say dominant, just because I'm exploring my power, my personal
mhm.
power, and I want to utilize it. Not to abuse it, but just to be confident in it, stand tall.
Yes, I love that. I'm with you there. Like, I've learned I'm very, very dominant, um, in multiple aspects. Even if I am submissive, I'm still slightly dominant. So, like, am I able and willing to submit to someone? Sure, I can do that. But can I do that for like a long period of time? Hell no, I just
Right.
cannot. But like, I will say dominant would be the role that I will most likely play and be within for the majority of my relationships with people, even when if it's like a casual hookup. So that's just it's me at this point.
Right.
Do you have any last words that you would like to share with the audience before I go into this other stuff?
I would just say just steer clear, just be use your intuition. Your intuition always guides you to the right place.
Mm,
Just be careful. Just use careful judgment and just don't be so easily misguided by other people.
mm. Amen to that. So, to the listeners out there, this poem as Sin asked me to do. Yes, I'm name dropping, um, and throwing a little bit of shade because we just had this conversation like before we started recording. But this poem is called "Is It Really Love?" So, audience, I'm just inviting you all to the therapeutic journey, the my therapy journey, um, dealing with like a broken hoe, the younger version of myself who just did not understand and was just out here being reckless or just falling for a lot of things. And apparently, this speaks to a lot of people. And yeah, and Fortis, if you want to talk about this poem after I read it, we can do it briefly and then we'll close it out.
Okay.
So let's go. Is it really love? I find myself twisted in the grasp of my lust and my anxiety. This entanglement has brought me to yet another bed. I tell myself there's a possibility that more can come of this. However, this tryst is a romantic figment of my imagination. You called me boo, bae, love, and sweetie, monikers that were replaceable by the words of the sneaky link. Unneeded names used to guise the fact that you only wanted me for my body. But here I am, forcing myself to fall in love with a stranger in order to feel confident in the release of my sexuality. But is this really love? I want it to be love so I can leave this one-time encounter, reaffirming my preconceived notions that I'm destined for heartbreak. I want to fall deeply and quickly in love so that I can receive the gift of confirmation bias that resides in both of our eyes. But is this really love? It is the unconscious selection of qualities and characteristics that allows me to continue my replays, to continue, sorry. It is the unconscious selection of qualities and characteristics that allows me to continue to replay my traumas. It is the desire to form a cemented foundation which molds the definitions of my cognitive dissonance. But is this really love? It is the hurt that I care too much for that I refuse to let go, the ills and attitudes of all former lovers that I refuse to release because I wanted to mend their broken hearts, not realizing that the only heart needing mending was my own. I know it's not love. It's the cracks within my heart looking for quick fixes, hoping the shards of another were a proper fit, yet they never were. It is the refusal of allowing the homeostatic ecosystem of my emotions and body to heal itself. It is my refusal to purge the things that are eating at my guts and soul and prevent me from embracing the power I refuse to see. It is the dismissal of my intuition and integrity because I was more comfortable with being gaslighted rather than acknowledging my worth. It never was love. But at least now I recognize that. And that's the poem. So, huh?
Damn, I felt like I've been read to filth. That's how I would have felt a year ago. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you because that's deep. That's really deep because that was me a year ago. Really and truly speaking, like I was that person a few years back when I first started getting into the hookup scene.
Hmm.
I did validate my worth based on men getting receiving men's attention.
Mm,
And all the time when they would speak these little words, like they little words, trying to play, like try to say some nice things. I believed it because I was like, okay, I'm first time getting attention from a guy.
mm,
But goddamn, oh no, that's how it is. That's how it be.
yeah.
Damn, now you make me feel like want to cry. Cause I remember
Oh,
I saw an episode of Glee because I felt like I was read on that episode because I remember that character by the name of Kurt and his father had that conversation
mm-hmm,
and it was something regarding sex. And basically he was saying like don't throw yourself around. Like, basically, when you're having sex, don't be like that. Don't throw yourself around. You're more than that.
mm-hmm.
I
Exactly.
remember seeing that episode and I was in my feelings then.
Like it's I like this I don't know what, because I know when I wrote that I wasn't feeling those specific thoughts, but I did channel that younger version of myself when I was typing everything.
Hmm.
And like I was thinking about, what was it? It's like part of what I write about in the Essential Guide on How to Be a Hoe is pet names. And that's something that I always hated because you don't know me, but you're already calling me baby. And
Hmm.
we're engaging in our first ever sexual encounter, and you are acting as though I'm actually special to you. And I know that is not going to be anything outside of this encounter. And why pretend as though it is going to be something like that? And I
Right.
know a lot of that comes from a lot of people who participate in like casual hookups or even just getting to know somebody just for sex is because a lot of them are hurt themselves, or they just don't know how to express or articulate the things that they desire and want. Um, so they just act the way that they've been told that they needed to act. Like I have to call this person baby because to me, I want to feel that, but I'm too afraid to have that outside of a sexual encounter because I don't feel as though I'm worthy of having that kind of partner, or I don't feel worthy of love in general. And I think that's a mindset that a lot of people are in, and they're just uncomfortable with stepping outside of that and accepting that I too deserve love. I too deserve uh peace. I deserve happiness. I deserve a love that fills me up and pours into me and fills me with a way that's so abundant that regardless of how much I pour into other people, that I will always be full. And the same thing is that the person that I'm with, they're always full too, in such a way that you're so full of love that it doesn't make sense. Like, how can two things pour into each other and it never goes empty? That kind of love, that
Right.
love that is undescribable, that is not, it's so non-existent, but it exists kind of thing. Like in essence, it's unexplainable of how it's so powerful, but it's here. Like we all deserve that.
Exactly.
But yep, that's the poem. If y'all have
I
any,
love it.
thank you for the listeners out there. If y'all have any comments, if you want to share, if it made you feel some type of way that you want to share with me, in the show notes. I keep it there. You can always go to the Slayer's Playhouse website. You can find my Instagram. You can reach out to me that way. You can even send me something through TikTok. You can tag Slater's Playhouse. That's the name of the TikTok. I only TikTok through Slater's Playhouse. So people, if you need to find it, there you go. But yeah, you can search Slater's Playhouse, clip the poem if you have the capabilities of doing that, or just find a random post on there and just talk about your experience hearing the poem, and I will reach out and I will like communicate with you all, engage with you all, because it's who I am. Like, reach out to a motherfucker. But with that said, Fortis, thank you so much for joining me today as we talked about Black fetishization. So thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. To my listeners out there, thank you all so much for listening to the Holy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. Just in case no one else told you this today, you are beautiful, you are worthy of happiness and joy, you are enough and then some. You may not live up to the expectations of others, but that is okay. You are only required to walk in your own shoes. May each day you live lead you towards abundance. With that said, love you all and see you next episode. Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Holiloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting app and find us on the web at www.holiloquy.com. That's www.heauxliloquy.com. Share the podcast with your friends and join the conversation.